Hello, what are we listening? What are we listening? What are we talking about, listeners? Today we have a guest I am unbelievably excited for because he is in the thick of treatment plant operations. We have Sean Powell today. He is a chief plant operator, but not more importantly, but maybe more interestingly, for purposes of this conversation, we're going to be talking about his latest endeavor in founding the Wastewater Enthusiast YouTube channel. So, Sean, I got a chance to briefly get to know you through LinkedIn and seeing your first set of videos that you posted about everything wastewater treatment operations is concerned. But of course, I've enjoyed our prep calls and getting to know you a bit more as time has gone on. So, thank you for joining today.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
Yeah, Sean, and same thing. I enjoyed our conversation about, why you started Wastewater Enthusiast. So why don't you share with our listeners exactly why you did it? We're always interested in, what's the genesis behind somebody doing something like this. So why don't you start there?
Sure, absolutely. I had this idea about a few months ago, and something I've noticed is lacking in the industry is really relatable, easy to digest training for operators, especially exam preparation training. And I have this unique plant where we have a few different biological processes. We have two different digesters. We have preliminary treatment. We pretty much touch on the broad overview of what you need to know to pass your test. We don't get into some of the nitty gritty, but like very specific stuff. But anyway, I went and talked to my boss and was like, hey, I got this idea. What would you say if I started a YouTube channel and just kind of filmed what I did at work and then maybe did some math prep and this and that? And he was all about it. He thought it was a great idea. So long as we can keep it separate from work, obviously, he thought it would be really good for the industry. So the thought, I think I came up with this idea, 3 months ago, but I really came up with it 14 years ago when I became an operator and was looking for training, and I couldn't find it anywhere aside from having to pay for it, or going through the standards, Sac State, Ken Carey books from the Office of Water programs, and that's like watching paint dry. Reading those books, it can be rough. So just over the years, I hear from operators all the time. Is that going to be on the test? Is this going to be on the test? Like, what do you know is going to be on the test? Well, I've been through a lot of the tests, and as a grade 4 wastewater treatment plant operator, I've passed every one of my tests the first try. I know how to pass them, and that's another thing I thought I could help people with is study tips, what to expect when you go in. I obviously can't tell you what's going to be on it because it is a test, but I can tell you where to focus and how to study and how I did it, and so that's kind of where it came from.
It has been amazing. I mean, you mentioned 3 months. For those that are listening very acutely, 3 months ago is when you publish your first video on YouTube. Is
Eight
that
weeks
right?
ago.
8 weeks ago.
Yeah, is the first so 3 months ago is the idea, and so it took me about a month to get the chutzpah to put something up, because there's a little bit of imposter syndrome that comes from this, where you go, am I really qualified enough to do this? Do I know enough yet to take this on? And really, it was just like, well, the market will tell me whether I know enough or not. And so, yeah, it's been 8 weeks, and I just checked my analytics right before we popped on. I'm at 370 subscribers and just shy of 3,500 views. It's really, people need it, people want it, and so I'm going to keep pushing with it, and it's been great.
I love it.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see where you're at, by end of year and next year. I anticipate 10x at least
Yeah,
where you're at
that's
today.
very
So,
generous. Thank you.
I love the mindset of you just gotta create and get something out into the world and get the feedback. So, can you talk to us about, there are a lot of water professionals listen to this show,
Sure.
and Jim and I always beat this drum of you just have to produce something, anything.
Yep.
Right? The things you do day to day you take for granted, but other people are going to find it fascinating, or other people are going to want to see it. Talk
Yeah.
about how you overcame some of that imposter syndrome, or you developed that chutzpah to get things going, and how it's gone so far.
Yeah, that's my personality, is to go and ready, fire, aim, and get in the corridor and start doing and figuring it out that way. I am not a perfectionist in the sense that I have to have everything in place before I proceed, because if I were to do that, I would never do anything. And I think we talked about this in the prep call. I started as a maintenance aide at a state park cleaning bathrooms. And if I hadn't stepped out and tried something that I was super uncomfortable trying, I would still be cleaning bathrooms at a state park. But what I found in just getting in the corridor, and you don't know, I don't know where this is going, this channel, and I'm okay with that. I just know that my experience in my whole career and what has gotten me to move up in the ranks and get me in management positions, and now this is taking off, is just start. And the market will tell you, if you're paying attention, the market will tell you what it wants. And that was kind of my gamble with this YouTube channel, is I'm going to put out videos, and if they aren't good, I'm going to find that out very fast, because my colleagues will tell me. I have a lot of honest colleagues and that will tell me that you need to try again. And what I heard back was from people that are sticklers. I mean, really hard-nosed folks telling me, you're onto something. This is good. You need to start, promoting it and marketing it. And so my advice to people who haven't really known how to break into whatever they're doing yet is start, just try and throw something out there, throw something against the wall, see what sticks. And then you can kind of start reverse engineering it. And that's experience. It's the best teacher.
Yeah. So I got a big kick out of what you're saying, that you don't get into all the nitty gritty. And I've watched some of the YouTubes that you have, maybe not the nitty, but you definitely get into the gritty.
Yeah. What I mean by that is my plant doesn't have every single process. Like, I don't have to deal with struvite in a digester feed line. I don't use coagulants here. I have in the past, but that's what I mean. I guess I have enough here right now that I could build a baseline. But yes, we do get into the gritty. That's for sure. I don't know if you saw the one I just posted where we had to beat the living bejesus out of a sprocket to get it off of a shaft. I didn't film that part because it was hard work. But when we were done with it, it looked like a bomb went off. Where the sprocket was detached from the shaft. Anyway.
Yeah. So Adam and I, our audience are vendors of products and services into the wastewater treatment market. So one of the things we always like to ask our guests like you, what tips can you give for people that are going and calling on you to sell chemicals, sell equipment? Well, what can they do to better engage with people like yourself, Sean?
This might be a tall order, but know my lexicon. Let me have a conversation with you on my level. And so I thought about this question for a while, and I have a lot of vendors come through my plant, and our office manager is a wonderful gatekeeper, and she will screen them, and I will decide who I want to talk to, because everybody is selling the same thing now. Everything is standardizing everything. And then what I'm talking about with chemical, sodium hypochlorite. Okay. Everything is so similar now with pumps and this and that, the market is tight. The pricing's not going to be much different between who's going to get me this pump versus that pump, or who's going to get me these parts or this chemical. What I have found is the people I gravitate to the most are the people who have a great personality. I don't feel like it's not awkward to talk to them, and it's comfortable. It doesn't mean you've got to be like some wonderful wordsmith, but just have a conversation and be real. And then the other thing is knowing what you're talking about. I had a vendor who I use. He's one of my vendors, and he's great. But I was talking to him about a pump I needed. He came out to quote it for me, and we were going over it. And I said, it's the effluent pump, and he called it the affluent pump. That for me is a concern.
It was expensive. It's an expensive pump.
As expensive as it's probably a $20,000 pump. As expensive as it is, still, let's get our wording right. And so for me, somebody who's technical, somebody who like really is tuned into what I'm talking about, that makes me perk up a little bit, and it makes me concerned on a level that you might not source me the right thing, and maybe I'm going to talk to somebody who does. And I'll leave it here. The best counter guy I ever had was I'll throw it out there. Ferguson in Reading California, Ferguson Waterworks. They were more industrial. It's not like the Ferguson where you're getting like, countertops and kitchen sinks. This guy I would call him up. It got to a point where I knew he knew more than I did, and I was the public works supervisor. He had way more dirt on his boots than I did. I don't know what he was doing working behind a counter, but I'd call him and say, "This is my project. What do I need? What do you got for me?" And he would go, "Oh, well, I've got this new fitting," and I go, "Well, tell me about it." "Oh, it's this, da da da," and he got me to a point, and I didn't realize it until you actually asked the question. And I started thinking about this. He got me to a point where I trusted his judgment so much, I let him sell me things that I might not have even asked for in the beginning. So, just my point of view: know the lexicon, be personable, and you don't have to teach me anything, but that's unusual. But be able to carry on with me and understand what we're talking about.
That you have run into some great salespeople. That is
Yeah,
tremendous,
yeah,
and it is a skill for sure.
yeah.
Obviously, this guy had the one behind the counter had a ton of experience
Oh yeah,
that he could lean on. But yeah, for someone to be able to sell you something you didn't even know you needed is, he's making Ferguson pretty happy. So
yeah,
that's good
yeah.
to hear.
Well, and conversely, I've had counter people where I see them and I wait. I let people go in front of me because
Yeah.
I know that that conversation is not going anywhere. I'll wait for that guy,
Hmm.
and so just that's and those people tend to fumble over their words, ask you, well, what was it again, and just that one little level of doubt in your tone or anything when I'm trying to place a big order, that makes me like not want to order from you.
Yeah,
So
that's understandable. So what recommendations or feedback would you give to, maybe someone who's a little bit newer to the industry, who's out there selling, getting a lot of windshield time, going from plant to plant, or even folks that are trying to market digitally to figure out what's it going to take for me to get in front of Sean and in his mind, right? What are the types of things they should be thinking about or talking about that are going to get you excited in ways that, yeah, are going to basically catch your eye?
yeah, my suggestion first, if you're really green to the industry, go get a tour of a plant. Get an operator to give you. They give you tour. It's part of our. I actually have a budget item in my budget for tours when I code my time. So that's a thing. And I have a funny story about that. Actually, I went to Las Vegas, and the first thing I decided to do was go get a tour of the drinking water treatment plant. And while everybody else was doing their thing, all I did was make a phone call, and they said, "When do you want to come?" And so it's very easy to get tours of plants. So learn your audience. Don't just tour one plant, tour several plants. And then when you're coming in, listen to us, listen to what we need. Because I hear that you have these things that you're selling, but I don't know how that fits into my application. But know your product line well enough and ask, well, what kind of, know enough about process to be able to ask about a process and ask, well, what's going on with are you, everything going well with your clarifier? Everything going well? You have any issues with your, you know, gear drives or your gear reductions or whatever it is you're selling, and listen to the operator talk. And if you know enough about the process, you might be able to, pick something out. I will tell you the least effective person who's getting the windshield time and driving through. I think of one salesman right now. I never buy anything from him. He's a nice guy. He pops in unannounced randomly. I'm always busy here. I'm always in the middle of something. And he's like, "Hey, just swinging by to seeing if there's anything you needed." Well, if there was something I needed, to be quite frank, I would have called you and told you I needed something. But I tell him that I go, I can't really think anything off the top of my head. If I did need something, I would have probably called somebody. So I don't find that very effective. But if he were to come in and say, "Hey, how's this process doing?" And let me show you. And I'd go and he might be able to hear something. So that's just something I might.
Yeah. So vendors, here's a call to action. If you don't have the time to visit a wastewater treatment plant, watch some of Sean's videos and you can save a lot of time. Because I don't know how many people you have. I mean, obviously, I would expect that most of the people that are on your YouTube channel are people that are operators and want to take the test. But I would expect that you probably should get some people, some vendors that are interested in learning more about the process so that they can do a better job of not only selling to you, but to other operators, right?
I would agree with that. Yeah, I think the channel is really good for everybody. I actually had a somebody studying for their PE test in environmental engineering say, wow, that was really cool with this clarifier video. That was helpful to kind of connect the dots. And so vendors, engineers, operators, it seems like engineers and operators are my biggest audience right now, but vendors, yes, if you're curious on how any of this works, what I'm trying to do is distill it down to, really easy to understand concepts. And just to see, and this is where YouTube kind of, why I chose that avenue, was podcasts are good for conversation and rote memorization. YouTube is good for visual learning and demonstration. And a lot of what I do is best taught through demonstration. And that helps, especially OITs, operators in training, and people who are trying to become operators in training, who have no idea what any of this stuff is. Vendors who, you hear about whatever it is that you're trying to sell, but you've never actually seen it in action, let alone consistently in action. You can go to this channel and kind of get an idea and wrap your head around what's going on.
So, Sean, someone's listening to this and they're thinking, I'd like to start my own YouTube channel, but I can't get my boss's approval, or I don't have the technology to do it, and they get stuck in their head and they never put that first video out there.
Sure.
What are some things they can do to get buy-in from their supervisors? And then what about the technology component of it? How much do you actually need to get started doing this?
I spent $40. Well, I have an iPhone 16 Pro Max, so that one, or sorry, 15 Pro Max. So that one, well, I guess that there was a little bit of investment, but it's my phone, so it's not that difficult to do that. But anyway, aside from what I already had, was a tripod and a microphone. And the first few episodes, if you listen to them, there's no microphone, because the microphone I bought was the wrong configuration. And my style is like, screw it, I'm just going to do it anyway without the microphone. And so the barrier to entry these days for technology, if you've got a semi-decent smartphone, don't get wrapped around the axle on gear. And I want to give you a quick analogy as to why that's my philosophy. I love to play the banjo, okay? And there was a season in my life where I was very dedicated to that. But I knew enough about myself that I only bought a $100 banjo. It's $99. Why? Because if I turned out to be horrible at it and didn't want to do it, I didn't want to invest $700 or $800 in a high-end banjo and then never play it. And so I was, about ready to invest in a better one. And then I started dating my now wife. And that banjo sat in the corner because I was very interested in her. And right before we had our first child, I started playing the banjo again. And then our first child came on the scene. And he has played it more than I have by playing it on it and beating it to smithereens. And so my point in this story is, you never know what twists and turns are going to come. If you're just starting a YouTube channel, go really light on the gear, because it would be a real heartbreaker if it turned out to not be something you want to do. Trust me, it was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but it's turned into a labor of love. I didn't realize the editing and how I sound is weird and like all these things. And so if you're buying a bunch of equipment, I think it's better just to go low end first on the technology. And then as the channel grows, invest in bigger stuff as you see fit. And with respect to the getting the permission aspect of it, I would be able to do this channel without my boss's permission. The difference being, I wouldn't be filming in the plant. I'd be doing more whiteboard stuff, explaining concepts on my, same as I do now. I do all this on my lunch break and before and after work. I don't do this on the clock with the district's money. This is my own thing. So I do a lot of math videos and a lot of, I call them the wastewater whiteboard, where we talk about a concept and we dissect something. Shoot, that takes me 20 minutes to slap some, ink on a whiteboard and have a quick conversation with you, and we're done. And there's a very minimal editing that needs to go into that. So if you're running into if you're an aspiring YouTuber and you're bumping into, well, I don't know if I can do this at work. Well, if you know enough about your job to be a subject matter expert and put stuff out on YouTube, you can get a whiteboard, you can get a marker, and most stuff that you're trying to do, you can probably explain. And some of the best YouTube videos I've watched, not in my industry, but in just learning to be a YouTuber or I like, just recently listened to a tax about taxes, tax structures. And this guy did not use anything but his face. He just talked at the camera the whole time. And I listened to it while I was driving. I didn't need to see his face talking to me. And he just talked the whole time. And there was no demonstration or anything. And so if you're running into problems with, oh, well, I can't film around my workplace, a lot of YouTubers actually just talk at you. They don't. There's a decent subset out there that don't even use visual aids. They just have a nice setup and a microphone and headphones like you're wearing, Adam, and they just talk at you. One of my favorite guys is Cal Newport. I don't know if you know who he is. He got a little bit of visual stuff, but he just talks to you. So yeah, just start, and it'll evolve. Yeah.
Sean, what platforms are you using to promote the channel?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Jim. It's I started with Facebook with friends and family, super excited about what I was doing, and then I learned not to do that. So aspiring YouTubers, don't do that because it can mess up the algorithm and how it promotes. It uses recommendations. I won't get into it. There's plenty of YouTube videos you can actually watch on that topic. But I have been building a professional network on LinkedIn. And I actually started doing that when I got this position. I left my last job and, I felt like, I should probably start a LinkedIn. I'm not really huge on social media, but let me just start something and get to know my colleagues on the Central Coast. And when I started doing the YouTube channel, I realized why everybody had hundreds and hundreds of connections. Because I was like, how do all these people have all these connections and don't know each other? Like, I didn't understand the power behind it. And so I just started connecting with people that were in the industry. And I posted at one point, and I think this is how we all ended up getting connected. I posted one of my episodes on LinkedIn, and then a local, I think he's a deputy superintendent. He's pretty respected in the industry, pretty well respected. He reposted my thing, my post, and then my phone would not stop dinging. I had to turn notifications off, and that's where you, Adam, emailed me later that night. So it was like kind of this barnstorm thing where all these people were connecting with me, and I'm getting all the subscriber count jumped on the channel, and I was like, oh man, wow, that's the power of social media. I had really no idea. And so anyway, during our pre-recording call, Adam suggested Reddit, and I honestly was a little intimidated to put it on Reddit because that can be an unforgiving space.
Reddit's scary. Reddit can be scary. Oh yeah.
And so I kind of just sat on that one for a little bit, and I don't know, I got a wild hair. This one, it was like on a Saturday afternoon, and I was like, yeah, I'll throw it on Reddit. I might as well let the market have it now. And because LinkedIn's a very professional and upbeat network. It seems like people really want you to succeed when they're there, and then Reddit's this other place. They don't really care if you succeed, but what they're interested in is accuracy. And so I was like, well, let me see. And so I threw it out there, and oh man, in 24 hours, my subscriber count went from 54 to 179, and nothing but love. People just saying, like, one comment that really sticks out to me was somebody saying, this is what the internet should be, is people helping people, and people, putting stuff out to assist operators getting certified. And so you also mentioned Discord, Adam, and this is a funny story. I had posted another video on the water treatment subreddit, which was, I learned later was more of a household water treatment situation.
Yeah.
People talking about water softeners and stuff. But somebody commented and said, and he's an operator in nearby. I actually figured out who it was. But he said, hey, Sean, nice to see you on here. Don't forget to check out Discord. And I was like, Adam, I thought it was you. And so anyway, it took me, I got over to Discord. He was absolutely right. He gave me a warm welcome, same user handle. And I was like, wait a second, this guy's in California. That's not Adam. And so anyway, it turns out that he's not too far away from me. And he was just, he's a viewer, and he's really encouraging. He's a grade 5 operator, really encouraging of what I'm doing. And so Discord's been great, but Reddit was the the big kaboom. After I did that one, the subscriber count just keeps. And I don't want to, I put out quite a few videos. I don't want to spam Reddit. I don't want to be that guy that's like, throwing out all this stuff. And so I do like a weekly update. I do that on LinkedIn too, just to kind of, this is what we're doing this week, if you're interested. And every time I post, I get a handful of subscribers, and then what happens, and what I think is starting to happen now is there's enough people that know about it. There was only one dislike on one of my videos, and this guy was a little on the pedantic side. It was on my Megger video, and I was like, oh, okay, Sparky, thank you. But those guys are out there, and they want to poke at you, and that's fine. But every other, I've got a 99.7% like rate on all the videos. It's been very well received. Like I said, engineers, operators, and trainees, people from all over the country are emailing me, asking me for help. I'm emailing them back and answering their questions, and people are asking, hey, can you do this math video? And so I'm kind of, now I feel like I'm spinning plates a little bit, how growth can kind of outgrow you. And it's like, oh shoot, I better slow down here. So, now what I think is happening is word of mouth is starting to happen, and people are sharing the videos, and you can see this in the analytics that people share your video. And I think now I'll keep posting to Reddit, because there's always new people. If you actually go to the Wastewater subreddit and scroll, it feels like every third post is, I need help passing my test. And if you catch it at the right time, which that first time seemed to be catching it at a very good time, if enough people are watching, they'll see it, and they'll jump on and take a look.
I love it. There's so much I want to dive into, but we are already at time, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. We might have to bring you on for a second episode, Sean, because this is so good, and so many avenues we could go down relative to what you were just talking about. I especially enjoy how to deal with the haters when you do start posting is an interesting topic in and of itself. So we will end with our one final and infamous airplane banner question, which I believe you are familiar with, having listened to some of the shows. So we ask every guest the same question, which is that, Jim is kind of right down the road from you, so it's going to be pretty easy to pick you up this time as opposed to flying around internationally like we have had before. But in any case, we're going to get in a plane. We're going to fly it around the world over the home of every water professional that exists. And we're going to give you a banner on the back of the plane to basically say a sentence worth of words. Any message you want. What do you want to deliver to those people?
Study your material to understand. Don't study to pass a test.
Ooh,
nice one. That's really good.
There's a lot of people that is it on the test? Is it on the test? Is it on the test? Don't worry about it. Just understand the material, and you don't have to be worried about what's on the test.
And vendors, you'll know it's an effluent pump, not an affluent pump.
That's exactly right. These pumps are allowed in low-income areas too. Just understand. Be open. Genuine curiosity is what turns somebody from an expert to a master. Just be genuinely curious and study to understand. Don't cram for tests, because it actually will not serve you in the real world. When you actually start operating, you want that background information in your brain to draw upon. So that's my banner.
Well, thanks, Sean. This is really great, and we know our audience will get a lot of value out of your participation with our podcast. So thanks again.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.